Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dimension Magic Games YouTube channel. I'm Bobby, and today I'm joined by Biriarr and my Tuesday Night Locals commentary partner, Jamaal.
What's up, guys?
And we're here. We wanted to film a little video just to discuss kind of what we think is going to happen for the French Nationals event that's coming up this weekend, which is February 7th and 8th, I believe. And just kind of talk about what we expect to see in the new Set 29 meta. We have not had an official event since Fearsome Rivals has been released. I know we've been doing a lot of testing and streaming a lot of local games and seeing a lot of the decks in action. And a lot of YouTube channels have been popping up this year in 2026. Every day the Facebook discussion group is filled with gameplay videos, so that's cool. We've seen a lot of the decks, but how will they actually fare in some of these real events, and with a national level event first, I think it's a pretty interesting time to kind of discuss that. So the first thing we're going to discuss is just which new decks you think will be showing up in France, and which older decks might that affect. So I guess we can start first with just what do you expect to see? What's the field going to look like? Do you think any of these new decks are going to be heavily represented, or do you think it's going to be still basically the same meta with maybe a few changes? I guess we'll start with Biriarr. Give us your thoughts there.
It's a really good question, in all honesty. A lot of these new decks are actually pretty good. The real question is, well, not the real question, but like the real thing we have to think about is, do these new decks stand up to the previous top dogs, right? Like, are these decks better than playing Red Vision? Are these decks better than playing a Rinsu, Kefla, Zamasu Mill, Nova, Saiyaman? Like, I mean, Saiyaman's kind of fringe, but like, you get the idea. These are the things you have to keep in mind is, can these keep up? Are these better, or are they just a little shy? Because they're just a little shy is still okay. Like, it's still kind of worth taking, right? But that being said, I do think both the red decks will be heavily played. I expect to see some amount of Cooler and Lucifer as well. And in terms of like the white deck, Bola's really good, but it's really bad against Koitsuka, so I don't expect someone taking the risk there. So they probably may see some amount of baby. Those are the decks I would really expect, but realistically, it's the two red decks for certain. Those are like the best of best of the set easily.
Jamaal, do you think any of these Set 29 decks will make an impact this weekend?
Yeah, I think Cooler. I think people are going to try Cooler. I don't know about Impact, but I know people will try to play it just because it's basically Bojack slash a Rinsu Light. Like it's the easier version of Bojack to play for those people who like that style of deck, but aren't very akin to being good with control. And then it's also a Rinsu Light because it really is basically an aggro deck. It's basically blue swap, realistically, if you really think about what the deck does. But I do think it'll be represented. Also, Broly, obviously, is the big shiny new toy. It has the red multiple awakenings, which is just still a broken card, regardless of how linear Broly is as a deck. I'm sure someone's gonna try to. You're gonna see white, right? People are gonna try because they want white to be good. I'm sure maybe Bola, maybe Baby, just because of how just simple aggro it is. So like, I mean, and then Krillin too, right? Krillin arguably is the best deck, but Krillin is a little bit harder to play, right? To navigate. And I think people are still trying to figure out the list and what cards and what tech and engine and how much of it you need to run and whatnot. But I think out of those are probably like out of all the decks in DT29, I think those would probably be the ones that would have the highest percentage chance of being represented.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with the first event being a national level event is, like, if the first event was a webcam regional, I would expect a ton of Broly. I feel like Broly would be pretty dominant in that. It's shorter event. Less preparation goes into those for people, right?
Less risk.
Yeah, but while Broly's popular and people are definitely going to be playing it, it is fairly linear. It does have its weaknesses. It doesn't feel like a deck that top national level, top cut players are going to be on, if that makes sense. It feels a little too brain dead. A little too easy Whereas a deck like Krillin that gives you so many lines of play, that feels like something, even though it's red and not, blue or yellow, which usually ends up winning these type of events. It seems like Krillin has that. Cooler definitely has some of that. I don't know if Cooler is good enough, but it'll definitely be played. And I think the white decks are very interesting. They're it seems like they thrive more in an aggro environment, and I don't know if aggro makes it through a long day of Swiss at an event like this, but I could definitely see in a 6-round webcam regional, Bulla or Baby, just catching people off guard. But I feel like people are going to be prepared, and a lot of the same meta decks that were prevalent in the last set are still going to be played. People aren't going to just be playing the new toy just because. They're going to be there to win. So it kind of skews, what's going to be in the field. But one of the things I think is interesting is red is, I think it's fair to say that red is the most hyped color in VT29. I think people are excited to play the red decks. So does that push out some of these decks that were able to thrive in besides Red Vegeta, which was really the only red representative for most of that format, our decks going to get pushed out? The one that comes to mind immediately is a Masu Mill, which won US Nats. It feels like if you're going to play against 3 Brolys and a Krillin in a 4-round or an 8-round event, it might be tough to make it through. So that might be something that gets eliminated. But are there any other decks besides the Masu Mill you feel like set 29 can kind of push out of the field? Either you guys.
I think so. I do think there will be not a huge amount, but I think there's going to be a decent amount of people who probably would play Lucifer. And that deck, any deck that relies on a Z Unison to function, is going to get pushed out by that deck. If you're playing Nova and you face a Lucifer, I'm sorry, you're not winning. You lose the ability to draw. You lose the ability to function as a deck. You're playing Nameku, you lose the ability to function as a deck. You're playing Zamasu Mill, yeah, it's green versus green, but I eliminate your ability to dormant for free. You literally can't do half the things you want to do if you're playing a Unison reliant deck. Like it's really toxic against the Unison decks, right? So I think that deck is going to be a huge thorn in those types of decks. I just don't know if it's going to be enough for the time frame of this Nationals, but I do think if a regional pops up after this Nationals, I do expect more Lucifer to pop up and actually push out the Unison-based decks.
That makes sense. Jamaal, you have anything to go away?
Yeah, I think for older decks to get pushed out, I mean, I kind of approach this ideology the same way we kind of think. Like, this was supposed to be our meta, right? Like, we were supposed to get BT29 and it got pushed to last month, I guess. So, kind of thinking, hey, not knowing what we know now or knowing what we know now, would we have played any of these decks? Would they have been as impactful for our decision making going into our own nats, right? Short of like Kefla, right? But just the regular field. And short of kind of what B said, like Lucifer, but like it's such a fringe deck. Just I don't see it pushing out Nova to that. It hurts Nova, yes, but I don't see Lucifer being good enough to then say it's better than. It's good enough to be able to. Those other decks do not need to be played. But I think there's an argument that people will prefer Red Broly over Red Vegeta, just because it's kind of bigger and barrier and puts the onus on your opponent to have barrier removal turn over turn with how linear the playstyle is. Because technically speaking, Red Vegeta is linear up until a certain point. You can argue that there are certain lines and stuff, but that could be any deck. And even in Broly, there's certain lines and stuff that you can take and knowing what to play. But for the most part, I think a lot of people gravitate towards, a big beater deck, right? We've seen it 30Ks, so it's hard to remove and interact with. And then they also have barriers. So really, I can kind of see that maybe shadowing over that situation. I think blue goes unfazed. I don't think the blue decks care. Rensu doesn't care. Bojack doesn't care about whatever the other decks are doing. There is an argument that Bojack could kind of take a hit for anyone who does go to that Nats and kind of wants to play Bojack in France, just because Bojack does have a hard time against Red Broly, right? Because of the barrier. So I can kind of, but that's barely been a part of the meta. It's just kind of a one or two person type of deck. I mean, there's also other people who play it; they just don't do well with it. But and we saw that at our Nats. There were a couple Bojack players that just didn't get very far. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. This set doesn't seem to be that impactful to say push anything out. Maybe more so in addition to, but not necessarily to replace or get rid of something that
We have
already.
more options.
Right. It just kind of it feels like we got more options to play in the
Suit
color
your
world.
taste.
Right, where it's like, oh, I could play Red Vegeta, or I could play Broly, I could play Kef or Rinsu, or I could play Cooler, right? It was, I mean, white is there was really no white deck to begin with, so
Other than
that
Belmont a
kind of
little.
doesn't count. The yellow decks are kind of irrelevant to the point where I don't even remember Ginyu. Oh, and the Vegeta deck kind of sucks, or it does. And then green is just Lucifer, which I don't think Lucifer's pushing anything out of the meta, because it still needs to beat the other stuff in the meta, whether it's good against something else or not.
Yeah, it would prevent a unison-based deck from being like the best deck in the format, right? Because at
Right.
any point, if a unison deck was the best deck in format, Lucifer could.
That's the
Lucifer
problem.
could,
You go
I
in
think-
Swiss, you face one, just one. It's all it takes to ruin your run. You face one Lucy once, twice throughout that day, you're toast.
It kind of reminds me of like Warp Black, the old Truman salsa that warps the graveyard, and where like there's a lot of graveyard strategy decks that have come out over time, and we're like, oh man, Truman salsa would really hurt this deck because this deck needs this cards in its drop. It needs its cards, however the interaction works. Whether it was, you can argue with Kefla, you can say it with Gohan, the green one, that would replay the one drops with Pod. Shout out to Pod. But it's just like, yeah, okay, fine. There's a deck that could create a checks and balances situation, but then how good is Human Salsa against every other thing that it would face? To the point where even in that situation where you can say, well, if you run into that one Lucifer deck, you just take your chances. Like maybe that guy's probably going to lose the first two. You're not going to see him after round 3, and maybe you'll see him round 1, but maybe round.
I don't know. The thing is, the especially in Europe side, like I've heard a few things. They've been building Lucy specifically to be as uninteractive as possible, where they're going heavy hand control. They're running a playset of the new concept rare. They're literally not attacking you because their leader doesn't have to swing to draw. They're literally just doing their spirit boost on their turn, setting up whatever hand control effects they can do on their turn, and they're running the Z extra that burns at like a 4 of, and they're critting you down 4 of your life. They get you down to 2 life, and they just alpha strike you with solidarity. That's all they're doing. They've made it a uninteractive burn deck, basically.
The problem is their best defense. I feel like they get rolled by Lucifer gets rolled by Broly, because your best floodgate does the first negate's not negated. Their swing is not negated. Therefore, it's a 30k swing or 30k double coming at your face, which isn't efficient to get out of. And then what, you uneasing, and then okay,
they
fine.
They can't uneasing. It's
Sorry,
not,
they can't because
they can dormant, but they have a free counter attack and they can combo from grave.
Sure, I mean, but any of those, the swings start to go through, or they catch you without having that dormant. I mean, yeah, dormant, and if they just side in the black card that I'm drawing a blank on, the anti-free card, anti-free floodgate
Hunt.
card, Hunt, yeah, Hunt and the Demon God or something.
Sure, but I'll be honest. I've done that matchup as Lucy into Broly. It's close. It's closer than you'd think. I've beaten Broly's. I've lost to Broly's with it too. It's not that cut and dry, is what I'd say.
Sure. I just don't think, personally, if you ask my opinion, I don't think Lucifer is a good enough deck to have an impact on the meta in the sense, even though it has things that's good against. But we'll see.
I don't think for this Nationals. It definitely won't for this now. It's too little time to refine a list.
Yeah, it would be interesting if that was like the one deck in set 29 that made a big impact and nobody really expected that. Is there maybe not a deck, but I know there are quite a few generic cards in set 29 that people are kind of going to be splashing into other decks. There's one in particular that I'm thinking of that I don't want to. I took Zamasu Mill off the board when I introduced the topic of decks to push out, so I don't want to take this one too. But maybe not a deck, but is there a specific card from set 29 that you feel like decks have to be able to respond to, or they're going to be seen a lot in the format? And if your deck can't deal with X, Y, or Z, it's going to have to pick something else. Basically, is there?
I mean, me and
like
Jamal
that?
both know it's the Bio Broly, right? Like that SR was a mistake. That card is really, really, really poorly designed and should not have been printed.
Yeah, for sure. Bio Broly is ridiculous. A lot of decks can kind of out it, right? But the decks that can't, and stuff, especially like green, right, as a color, does not do a good job. But some decks don't care. But even then, you still have to play around it. Even the decks that don't care still have to play around it, right? Like, it's not a, oh, okay, I don't care about the matchup. I could just, you play Bio Broly, I can out it no matter what every turn. No, you still, so it's like some form of setup. Ironically, I think the best color that can out it is white, splash with black, because white can hide their cards and then reflip them on their opponent on their turn after it's played to then hit the requirement needed of the battle cards on the board, whereas other decks kind of have to play into the effect. Maybe beating your opponent's leader twice is okay, 2 or 3 times, and just
Red doesn't care. Red doesn't.
right. And obviously, some colors just don't care, right? Yeah, having barrier is the least of its problems. Obviously, Broly doesn't care about the Bio Broly. I think Krillin kind of cares to an extent. But it also just comes down to how efficient your barrier removal is for that one. And even that card not in Broly, it is just a nuisance because you can spend your entire turn trying to get rid of it, which you might be able to, and that's fine. But then that was your whole turn. And
against red, which is a tempo color that wants to just push your shit.
They essentially just floodgated you, or double floodgated you, and now you're like, okay, well, that was a turn off, but I had to deal with the thing because it gets out of hand. So, but
Yeah, there were a couple other generic cards that I thought might. I think of the black counter attack. I don't have it sitting in front
Piercing
of me.
blow.
Piercing blow. Yep. That hits the tokens, and does that scare enough TN players off of TN with that card existing? I don't know, but it is like a silver bullet printed for a pretty good set 28 deck. It was all over our nets. People were playing TN, so just.
I mean, it won in nationals,
but yeah, it won in that. Yeah, it's definitely a strong deck. Some of the white cards are generic too. You know, the negate that might boost other
sparking.
Yeah, the sparking negate might boost other strategies, but you're probably if you're picking a white deck. I mean, I guess Belmont is a reasonable contender. I would say you could play Belmont, but I think you'd lean towards one of the newer decks anyway. So maybe that doesn't work. So that could lead us right into some predictions. We'll predict what we think will win at the end, but I think it's a fun exercise just to go through each color and kind of say if there's going to be one deck in Top Cut that makes it from this color, because it's possible that all 6 colors could get represented in this Top Cut, which would be pretty neat. But just to talk about which deck from each color would top if one tops. So we can start with blue. Biriarr, if there's going to be a blue deck in Top Cut, do you have a prediction for what it would be?
In the new set or just in general?
Just in top 16 French Nationals. The list comes out on Saturday night after Swiss.
It's Rinsu. Reach is going to France Nats. He basically won Australia Nats with a Rinsu. He topped NA Nats with a Rinsu. 100%. Like, not 100%. Like, this is just me just, like, guessing. I'd assume he plays a Rinsu again because the deck got a huge boost. Like, got 2 huge boosts. We were talking about generic cards. It got the 6-drop Cooler SR that just lets you draw 2, discard 1, bounce a card, which is great for the deck. It's more removal in a deck that's bad at it. And now you have the Yes Time to Die Extra, which gives you synergy with the Tamagamis and gives you synergy with Beast On, where now instead of bouncing your opponent's board, you're bottom decking that whole thing, and your opponent's super behind now. So if it's not Kefla, it's probably a Rinsu.
Jamaal, I assume he just stepped on your choice. Yeah, it's a Rinsu, and obviously Kefla, right? I think I'm actually curious on how easy it is for them to get the promos in France for Kefla. if even French ones existed. But I guess they could play English ones as well. But nonetheless, I think Kefla obviously is, if we put that in the blue category, definitely a Rensu. I don't think any other really blue deck stands out. Bojack, right? I do think there's a potential. It just depends, right? I know only Dobby is really taught with it at a Nats level. And only him and I believe, have.
Unless Big O goes.
Huh?
Unless Big O goes, unless Oliver goes.
Right. But like, I think me and Dobby are the only two who top with it on a regional level.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's a chance. But to me, that's like end of the list for blue. It really is Kefla and Arintu. If I would have to make that, there's no other really great blue deck.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think we're gonna see. I think Cooler will get played, and even potentially maybe the Frieza
Has a
promotional
chance.
leader will get played, but I don't think they're gonna be in the top 16 at the end. I think if I had to pick one deck, I would be pretty sure is gonna be there. It's gonna be Kefla. It did win the other EU Nats, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't get a lot of play. So how about yellow? Maybe I'll start this one off. I think if any yellow deck is going to top, there's been a couple that made it through in ours and in different regions, but I think Nova is still the best positioned yellow deck to make a strong run. It still has a lot of tools. I know it lacks Haitian run, but it's just like some of these other decks that have gotten hit and they kind of lose their popularity for a little bit, right? People get off them because of a hit, and then they throw it back together and they realize, actually, it's fine. We liked Haitian run, but the deck still functions perfectly well without it. And I think it got second in the EU Nats that already happened. So I would go with Nova there. Do you guys have any difference of opinion there?
No, I agree. I think Nova has been a meta relevant deck for a long time. I don't think it's, like you said, it lost cards, but it didn't matter. And if that's the case, I don't see why it doesn't stop being represented in some form or fashion. And people like their yellow decks regardless, right? And it's kind of a short list, almost as short as blue, of yellow decks that are actually meta viable, let alone top cut viable, right? Like, if that can go the distance. Maybe I can see over there, maybe something like a Big Iron Broly might sneak its way into his top cut situation just because of how the deck plays. And people maybe still just, maybe that shift in the meta with people playing BT29 might allow them to kind of steal some wins with Big Iron Broly. So, but I can't even think of another yellow deck that, I mean, Great Saiyaman, the meta had nothing to do with Saiyaman really being good or bad. I think it was more so figuring out how to play against it. And to be quite honest, I think other decks just kind of play against it, except Broly, right? I guess if like you're trying to sneak in, you can go, I think a bunch of people are going to play Broly. Let me go play Great Saiyaman because Broly would struggle against that deck. But
it's unplayable. Like Broly cannot function as a deck against Saiyaman. It is by far the most trash experience I've ever had. I tested that the other day. Absolutely garbage. Like, it is not a good matchup at all. You have to sideboard so much. You have to prep so many things. You have to sequence super tight. And at the end of the day, all it takes is for them to give one of their 8-drops barrier and just chill. And they set up the counterplay and they sit on a counterplay Sin. You can't even go something like, I'll just Broly SCR even. Like, cool, you clear the board, but I Mutai to window 2 or Sin on window 2, and now your whole turn is over, and I get you on the crackback with Gogeta SCR. There's too many, and then like it's too much. Like, the deck, I feel like Saiyaman will be the one that will top because of that. The other reason too is, yes, I do like Nova is obviously really strong. I would not be surprised to see it top. However, Nova has a unique situation. Like, yeah, it's yellow, but unless you see the ape promo, which, like, you can see the ape promo, but if you don't see the ape promo, you don't actually have a good way of clearing the Bio Broly. You have to see the ape promo to negate its skills, or you are like going through a million hoops to get rid of the Bio Broly for that matchup specifically. So it's a little touch and go. And also the fact that the Bio Broly, you pay 3, boom, the board is gone. And now Nova has to reestablish. And if we are able to also clear the Unison at that same time, they have to spend that 1 energy on the Unison. They got to spend an energy on Ape. Then they got to spend energy to set something up to, they got to rest the Unison then to negate the guy's skills. Then they got to set something up to rest the guy. Then they got to spend 1 more to kill the guy. Like, it's There's so many hoops you have to go through for that matchup where Sandman just goes, yeah, we're just going to Omni negate that and move on with our lives. We'll do our counterattack, rest it, we'll pop it with this, call it a day.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it still kind of sucks against everything else, right?
It's still a high roll. It's a high roll deck, right? Like it's still one of the, if it goes first, it's probably one of the best decks in the game. Where if it sees all its pieces properly, and if your opponent doesn't sideboard Demigra, which a lot of us have stopped sideboarding Demigra, right? Like if we sideboard it for sure, Sandman gets trashed. But the fact is, like even our list, right? Like we look at our nets, a lot of our lists did not run Demigra anymore, and like that's a big deal. Maybe it does come back because, like you said, Broly has all these barrier cards. Well, how do we deal with the barrier cards? Well, run Demigra, right? But how many people are actually going to think about that? How many people are going to do that, right? So if that doesn't happen, I can definitely see Sandman topping.
yeah, it's definitely viable. No reason why it wouldn't. The other one I just thought of now that gets kind of hurt by red it being more prevalent is the SS4 Gogeta. We saw that win Latin America, but when your cards are not getting KO'd, the deck functions less efficiently, right? And
Right.
the red decks can clear your board without triggering revive pretty easily. So
Oh,
that
Goku
hurts.
Black Leader warps on swing.
Yeah, whether that that might be
I'm
wishful
saying,
thinking that Goku Black isn't going to show up at Nats, but I hope.
face it in
Please,
Swiss, lose.
please, somebody track the list. Let me net deck you, please. I'll be very excited to net deck whoever does well with Goku Black. That would be great. So that we talked about Black. I think Black is still kind of in a similar spot. It did get a generic card to counter TN, which does help. But do we think anything besides what has been doing well in Black tops in France, or status quo for Black?
I have to think about that one.
If the player base exists, I can see a Trunks Xeno topping because it got new support inadvertently from the 29. But that's if that player even exists. It's still a very good aggro deck. It does utilize a lot of the new cards pretty efficiently, especially the Trunks in theory, right? But in execution too, when it lines up. But it's one of those, will it actually work, right? Where you get the desired result. Other than that, other than the obvious, which is Panzino, right? We all know that. We all agree on that. Panzino is obviously the best black deck and best representative. I just don't think no other old black deck got help, right? It didn't make any other of the older black decks better.
Well,
So except
the
Trunks
generic cards supported every black deck, but Trunks Xeno being able to have a main board unison.
Yeah, right. It's the generic black stuff is technically support, but it's not enough. It wasn't the support that those decks needed. It wasn't the reason those decks weren't being played, with the exception of Trunks, because it has perfect synergy. Is it enough? Who knows? We'll see. But I mean, really, I think it would be black, and because just to put two predictions there, you can probably say Trunks Xeno.
I mean, you guys saw me play it in the tournament the other week. I was playing Hatchiak, and I'll be honest, the deck felt really good to play. My list, I needed to make my list a bit better, but Hatchiak also feels actually pretty good to play right now. But like, not many people are going to commit to that deck, so I'm not going to say it's going to top because that just doesn't make sense. The only other deck I could see, I agree with you. It's probably Panzino or Trunks Xeno, but the only other deck I could really think of is the BT18 Shroom and Salsa, because it already had the good promo support. It has good hand control, and it does actually use the new card super well, because now it also uses that Trunks really, really well. It can play the unison from the warp as well. Like there's nice little tools that it also got. That deck also leveled up a bit as well. But I honestly I agree. I think it's Panzino. I think it's Panzino, Trunks Xeno, probably, and maybe some psychopath tops with like Shroom, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I wish I could feel more confident in Trunks Xeno and say it was going to do well. Unfortunately, I tested a couple of games when I rebuilt it against Daniel's TN deck, and on turn 3, every game he just had Piranha and tapped me out and killed me over and over. So I I lost a little bit of faith in Trunzino that day, but maybe there won't be as much TN and people can make it happen. So I would still say Panzino still the predominant black deck in the room. All right, there's these last three colors I find pretty interesting. Let's do green, and I personally think if there's a color that doesn't make top cut, I think green might be a leading candidate for not getting in. I know it has some strong decks, but I'm not sure if any green deck is really there. I don't even know what I would pick as the best green deck. I guess you'd have to go Nameku. I feel like that is kind of like the default. If you think Zamasu is not good enough, Nameku.
The Europeans like Nameku. Like
Yes.
they like Nameku though.
It
And
seems like every region besides us enjoys Nameku and plays it pretty prevalently. So I would go with Nameku as my choice, but I would also say maybe green doesn't have a representative. What do you guys think?
I mean, Tien. I mean, it's Tien and Nameku realistically.
Yeah.
Maybe Green Gohan. Like I said, like in the team talk that we did, that deck feels really, really, really good to play. And like I know a few of the EU guys who were actually on Green Gohan back in BT28. We were like testing against each other and stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised to see someone duel with it. But realistically, if we're talking on a broad spectrum, it's probably just Tien, right? Like it's just Tien.
Yeah. Jamaal, any difference of
I
opinion
agree.
there? Yeah.
No, I agree. It's like you said, Tien or Nameku, realistically. So, yeah, like you said, Green just doesn't have the tools to really compete. It doesn't to get to top, right? Like to sit there and say, "Oh, this is a really strong deck," and that's kind of been Green's issue: is either really broken of a deck that ends up getting hit, or it kind of just doesn't do enough because it's just too fair. Which is the same argument about Red Broly, because Red Broly basically is just a green deck in disguise as red. So
Yeah, I could see, a couple people getting hot and running TN all the way. That could definitely happen. I could also see people being prepared for TN and just not letting it happen. So that would be my one color I'd be maybe not most questionable. I should stick with it. Yeah, I would say I think white.
Nameku
I
came
guess is
third.
what I want to say is I think white will have someone top. I think people are curious. I think the decks are neat enough for people to put the time in. It does lack tools that other colors have readily available, but for some reason I just think these decks are fun to play, and it's a neat new mechanic. And a lot of decks struggle with the hidden cards, right? If you can't remove the board and you can't, it's almost like super barrier. You can't get through it. So while it does lack a lot of tools, I think someone's gonna have cooked up a list to make it work. So if you had to pick one white deck, one white leader that was gonna make it through, what would you say?
Bola,
A 5K
my.
leader?
yeah,
Oh my god.
because it draws a lot of cards, and it draws a lot, and more importantly, it plays through Floodgate, i.e., dance, really, really efficiently, right? It doesn't really struggle against dance, and if you're going to see a lot of red in general, that card is going to, between all of them, right? Krillin and Broly and Vegeta, you don't care about that. And yeah, it's only a 5K leader, but it puts out a lot of pressure, right? It could slow the game down a bit. I've seen the deck go turn over turn, and also plays Protector to people, right? And we see how strong Protector, with such a battle card heavy format of swinging, that Protector actually kind of matters to then say, hey, it doesn't even matter that she's a 10K leader, right? So I don't know. My vote would be Bola. If the format wasn't so fast, I would honestly say Belmod, and I think Belmod would do really, really well if things weren't swinging for so big and so fast at the same time. I think Belmont's actually really good in an elongated game state.
Just takes a while to get going.
So
Right.
I tested I would have said Bulla if this was a week ago, I would say Bulla, but I sat down with one of my buddies and we tested Bulla into a Rinsu. We played like 7 games straight, back to back, and this guy 7-0'd me. Sideboard, not sideboard. Like, the Arinsu matchup is one of the worst matchups for Bola. It is absolutely horrendous, and it's really really bad. And if Arinsu's still going to be probably the most rep deck, or at least the most rep blue deck, I don't know. Like that's my problem. If the bullet dodges Arinsu, I think bullet tops. I agree with you there. But if not, if they see Arinsu, I honestly don't see how they win. That is like actually one of the most garbage matchups you could ever have. It's really bad.
Yeah, I think Bola has a better chance than Baby. Baby is a
I
strong deck, and it is
I've seen some good babies.
it can definitely put out the pressure. I just feel like that type of deck has
Bull
existed.
is better than baby though.
Bull is better than Baby. Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I have the same thoughts on Belmont. Belmont is strong, but so many of its plays are locked behind 3 energy, and some of these other decks just go a little quicker. So, yeah, given the right matchup slate, could it do it? Sure. Maybe someone's figured out the right color to splash in and make it work. That'd be cool. I look forward to seeing that. But I would say if any of the white decks have a shot, I think it would be Bola too. All right, so the last one. This one I saved for you, Beer, for last. Red. If there's gonna be a red deck that makes
Red
it
Vegeta.
all the way through, what do
It's
you
Red
think it'll
Vegeta.
be?
It's Red
None,
Vegeta.
What a
none
homer.
of them, they all suck.
Whoa, whoa,
Don't
whoa.
know.
It's Red Vegeta, and well, it's Red Vegeta or Krillin to be honest, because Broly just has way too bad of a yellow matchup. Like it's horrendous against yellow, but like Red Vegeta, like speaking from experience, I just know I play this deck and I go into just about everything. Not every deck, but just about every deck in the game. I have about a 50-50 matchup into everything. And that's the important thing is then at that point it's a matter of skill. Am I better than you? Yes or no. Am I going to be able to outplay you? Yes or no. If I can skill gap you, I win. If I can't, well, I guess I lose. And I shouldn't deserve to win anyways if I'm a bad player, right? And I do think Krillin also takes that to a higher level as well. I think those two decks would be the ones most likely to top. Realistically, all 3 decks are going to top, but I think Vegeta or Krillin will do better than the Broly. All 3 will top though. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
That's interesting. There's a lot of. I feel like Vegeta was heavily represented in the EU throughout the entire year. It felt like,
And they had regional winners too with it.
yeah, regional winners, and I feel like every other region kind of had like different. People would play Red Vegeta here and there. You get one. You were in all of them, but you wouldn't get it. It wasn't like the Kid Ku meta, right? Where
Yeah.
it was all the same. There was a lot of variation, so it'd be interesting
And
to
the
see if they
thing
stick
is,
with it.
is the Vegeta players in Europe, they were already mainboarding cards like Strategies of U7, which let them handle certain board wipe type decks. And Strategy U7 is basically what you would tech in anyways against something like Broly, because now you look at them and go, okay, you want to play your Bio Broly? Go ahead. My whole board has barrier. You're not clearing anything anyways, right? So they already were naturally running the card that counters half the strategy of Broly, because now the only way they're clearing stuff is the A drop or with their SCR, but that's not as that's a bigger commitment and less threatening than them setting up the Bio Broly and you having to dedicate half your turn to clearing it. I can dedicate 1 card to clearing your A drop or your SCR, where now I don't have to waste half my turn to clear the Bio Broly, right? So they already have the natural counters to something like that.
Yeah, and in the matchups where Bio Broly is really strong, Red Vegeta can just play it.
Yeah,
Right.
I've just thrown it in my list. I'm like, all right, tap 3, call it a day.
So that's kind of a bummer that card is going to show up in all these different decks. But yeah, so it'd be
It's
cool to see
generic.
all 3 red decks top. That's interesting. I wonder if that. You're probably right, but we'll see if that comes to fruition. So all right, if you have to pick one,
Red Vegeta will do the best.
okay, Red Vegeta does the best out of all of them. If we're gonna pick a winner for the event on Sunday afternoon, we're all talking about. We're watching the stream. Hopefully, I hope we're watching the stream. Fingers crossed, there will be a stream. And what do you think makes it all the way through? Winner of the French Nationals will be Biriarr.
I mean, it's Kefla, right? It's always Kefla.
Jamaal?
It's Kefla. It has to be. I mean, no, it's Kefla. I just don't see any of these things being better than what Kefla already had to face against to get to the top position, let alone. So if none of the new decks are better into that deck, and then none of the new decks are really even better than the decks that it already had to go against, I don't see how anything would really change. Just the
And
law of
Kefla got
averages,
more
right?
tools too. We got the
Right.
cooler SR and the yellow Vegeta. You can run both in Kefla. Now you can either do Gogeta Kefla more consistent because you have the Vegeta SR, or you ignore that and just do the Beast Han style that we had, and now you have another card that just lets you draw to discard one and get rid of a threat. Like the deck just got better.
Right.
Yeah, the 6-drop cooler SR just being a very easy answer to BMS. Because that's one card you don't mind returning to their hand. They want to tap
Yep.
one again, they get really no tangible benefit. And once it's removed once, Tefla can deal with it every other turn, so it doesn't make much difference. And it got the Z card, the Frieza Z card, right? That comes in and can
Lock a
get rid of
board.
it too. So yeah, it got more tools, and there's no deck that pushes it out. I don't think AJ is flying over to torture any Tefla players with Zamasu at the French Nationals. So unless there's a green player, a green Zamasu player that can dodge all the red somehow, I don't know how you would do it, but maybe you have a miracle run. I don't see anything being superior to Tefla. So I would also say Tefla will win.
I will say there's a chance. There's a chance that a Rensu could win.
Mhm.
A chance. Oh, and I'm not saying because Ritzy is taking it just because how good that deck really is. Like if Kefla didn't exist, I do think Rensu would probably be the best deck, right? Like it checks a lot of boxes between its aggression levels and its defensive levels. It did get the more tools and something it was missing in removal. The deck is just fast, and it kind of is one of those decks that is always the hammer, and it's always saying, "Hey, can you stop what I'm doing?" And then on top of that, I have a redirect, right? So like, can you even kill me with anything not impactful? Because I'm going to redirect the impactful thing. So I don't know. I feel like a Rensu has a high percentage chance to say maybe people don't have that experience with Kefla too, right? That kind of that we had, or especially like what Miguel had, and the other guy, I think Ivan, right? Ivan had it played. Maybe they don't have that skill level to sit there and say they can top or even win the event with it. But I will say, if that's the case, to me, the next runner up is a Rensu, because really Kefla comes down to the skill of the player of who's piloting it. All right. Obviously, there's the deck itself, which you can argue plays itself to an extent, but it's just more intricate than that because you're playing with two colors at the same time. So it's just not that simplified. And I think people will it'll be highly represented. People will play it, but that doesn't mean they're going to do really well with it. I will say the people who choose to take it will be under the assumption that they are playing it very well. But who's to say they don't match up in round 1 or 2 against something that they weren't prepared for, and there goes their run. So,
Are you saying Yellow Topo might make its way to French
yes,
Nationals?
sir. Every time round 1, yellow topo. Hey, stop.
There is an honorable mention. There's a deck that we neglected to mention, and it won Swiss and NA Nats, which is Power Wish. I don't know who in Europe is dedicated to playing it like Camacho or Bugar, but if there is someone who has actually dedicated time into Power Wish, I could also see that deck doing extremely well. That deck is extremely tough to face. You have to really, really be careful when you sequence against that deck or you just lose. I could very, very well see that thing top. I could see that thing winning even. It's a very, very, very tough matchup.
Yeah, one thing I
for
found
a lot of
I
decks.
think is interesting about that deck in particular. I'm glad you brought that up. At our Nats, when Camacho got first in Swiss, he was paired up with the 16 seed in the first round of top
Which was
16,
Miguel.
which was Miguel playing Kefla. Chances are he didn't have a ton of experience. Maybe he saw the lists that were previously doing well, like the cost list, and it was playing SS4 Gogeta, right, and thinking that's the deck, and then playing against Miguel, not really being familiar with the matchup. People won't have that same advantage that Miguel had at U.S. Nats in the French Nats, right? The EU champ played Kefla, and now we've had kind of an extended time off here where you've learned the matchup. You've at least got to play it a couple times, whereas a lot of people were going to our
Going in
Nats.
blind.
Yeah, don't just okay. What works against this? What are you doing? They had an idea. I'm assuming a lot of people just thought it was Gogeta into Tide deck, thinking that was the strategy. But now that this Miguel's list has kind of become the way it's played, people are gonna be aware of what to do. So that'd be interesting if Power Wish had a different strategy, because I know in top 16 the way it was played, he was kind of trying to hand control Miguel, right, going into the Oolong unisons and going that path, and I just don't think that was necessarily the right path in the moment. Just made a call and did the best he could with what he knew at the time. But now, if you've been one of these guys playing Power Wish, you'll have an idea of how to play against Kefla, right? You'll know a little better the matchup. So, all right. So I think we're all going to go with Kefla as the champion here. Hopefully, for Miguel's ego's sake, that does not happen and something else wins. He will be insufferable up until Worlds, if that's the case. If all these other regions are won with essentially his list, I don't know if we'll ever hear the end of it. So I want to do just a quick lightning round because we're already 45 minutes in, just to see our answers. We don't even have to explain them. Just a quick answer. I'll hit you with a question. You tell me what it is, and then hopefully we'll get some people commenting below in the video and just giving us their take, or maybe even, I think one of our last videos, someone clipped one of the questions and there was a nice discussion following it. I think it's cool to get everybody's opinion on this type of stuff. So, first question, Biriarr, we'll start with you. Most overrated leader right now?
Broly. Red Broly, easily.
Jamaal?
Broly.
I feel like I have to say something else because you both said Broly, but it undoubtedly is Broly, right? I feel like that has the most. All right, this one's a better question. Most underrated leader right now? Underappreciated, underrated, however you want to take that question. Jamaal?
Come back to me. Oh, God, that's hard.
Biriarr?
Krillin, very easily. I've literally had people message me and say, "Oh, what? You think Krillin's good?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Damn, that is a good answer. Are we saying just 29 or
No,
all?
any you can do. I mean, we don't have to go back to step one, but
Right.
an underrated
That
deck.
one?
This is a
That
Biriarr
one.
stream, but just something that could show up at this Nats that people are just not respecting and could end up biting them.
Bojack, kind of. People still have never really given it the respect. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's just Dobby. Oh, he's just Dobby. Oh, Bojack's not that good. It's just Dobby. And I know you did no explanation, but like I feel like that one kind of like for people like, oh no, Bojack, he tops with it all the time. Yeah, he tops with it all the time, right? But like I feel like it's underrated holistically.
That's a good one. I think in the EU there are quite a few people who might be playing Invoker, and I feel like Invoker definitely. I would want to know how to play against it if I was going into that event. I think you've got established players who play it over there, and I definitely think it has the tools. Is it going to win? I don't know. Kefla is definitely. If I had to pick a multicolor, I'd pick Kefla, but I think Invoker does have some tools to catch people. So that would be one I would go with. All right, number 3. This one might be controversial. The most impactful floodgate in the game right now. Biriarr?
That's a good one. It's Protector of the People. It's in everybody's sideboard. That is like it's in everybody's side.
You took Jamal's answer. He's upset.
No. I was gonna say no one cares about Protector. You can have your little 5K. I don't care. I would say still dormant. I mean, it's just annoying. We always say you can swing around dormant. It's still annoying. Like it doesn't matter if I can swing. I can't kill you around dormant. Like I can swing around it, sure, but I can't kill you. So like it's just annoying. And like all the other ones don't hit unisons, like blues and other stuff. Dance is like Dance Water Dance kind of sucks now. Nimbus again. I love Nimbus. To me, Nimbus is actually my favorite one. But like again, you could between Unisons and the leader stuff, it's just the one that says, "Hey, 9 out of 10 times I get my turn, or it's gonna work," is Dormant.
All right, I think in this current format, maybe it's only this one. I think Bardock Floodgate is very strong in the current format. I think the most overhyped deck might have trouble playing into it. A lot of decks might have trouble playing around it, and it's in the best deck. So that would be my most impactful right now. It's not always the best card. It also has downsides like Dormant, not negating, but okay. All right, we might have touched on this in the earlier portion, but one card that will make an impact across multiple decks. It could be a side deck card. Twitch Sakai might be an out to this question if you really don't want to have a hot take. But one card that you think will show up across a bunch of decks, maybe in Top Cut or just in Swiss heavily throughout the weekend, you're going to see this card a ton. Anything come directly to mind, Biriarr?
I mean, the cop out is saying the Bio Broly, obviously, right? But it's probably BMS, right? It kind of impacts just about every deck in the game.
Jamaal?
Demigra, Heavenly Wizard Demigra. It's a good check. Not only just you really should have it, right, because of Great Saiyaman existing,
And
but
Broly.
more importantly, the whole Broly's getting barrier, and there are 30Ks. So technically, if you fear the deck, and why not, right? Like have that. That should be in I think everyone's sideboard just to be safe. You just never know. The early rounds, whenever you're gonna run into Broly, you're probably gonna run into Saiyaman at some point. You're definitely gonna run into Broly. Therefore, just have it in your side and be prepared, right? I mean, just in case. I mean, yeah, it sucks when you draw it after you charged past the energy requirement, but rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So
Yeah, I have two that come to mind here. The spicier one is the new 6-drop Vegeta, the yellow Vegeta that takes a life. I feel like
That
that's
card's broken.
not leader locked, splashable in a lot of decks. Could be seen in some Kefla lists if people are excited about it. Could be seen in all sorts of yellow stuff, Surge Q. So I think that could be one. And then the other one, if I had to give you a second one, not a side deck card, that 8-drop Broly SR in this current set has a lot of range. It could be seen in a lot of the decks. Not Red Vegeta, I don't think, very efficiently. That's probably the one red deck that it doesn't come up in. But I think you could see that card across.
It's in Krillin.
It's in Krillin. Yeah, it could be in a lot of decks. So I think those are that would be my pick. All right, and then this one we don't have to do lightning round for this. We can have a discussion here. So dust settles. French Nationals is over. We have a winner. Everyone will have their eyes on April for Worlds. What will be the betting favorite heading into Worlds after the French Nationals? Jamaal, you have
to win it or representation.
Well, I guess it's tough. Do we say which deck will be most represented in this kind of small 8-man pocket meta, or do we say, if there was a DraftKings odds on, the favorite to win 2026 DBS Worlds? Maybe is it actually 2025 DBS Worlds? I'm not sure. It's in April. It might be the 2025 season. I don't want to miss a title, the eventual winner. But will it still be Kefla, or do you think there could be another deck that rises out of this event that makes people rethink that?
The only one to me would be Arinsu. I think that's the only thing that can kind of sneak in and say, I can kind of steal the game from you just with how fast it is. If the Keflas kind of run into a bad situation or they take each other out, or it's not like Kefla's like unbeatable, right? It's not. There are decks that can beat it that do have a pretty
Vegeta
good
can beat it too.
matchup, right? It's not like this boogeyman of a deck. So I just think if you say, okay, not Kefla, obviously despite saying that, I do think Kefla wins, right? But I think if there was something else that could win based off what we think someone could play and where the meta looks like and from what we've seen, I would say it had to be a Rinsu. I can maybe see a Invoker type of situation, right? In a short tournament setting right there where you're only playing 3 rounds and you just got to see Slam Apex for 3 games or 3, I guess, rounds in a row or something, 3 or 4 rounds. Maybe you get lucky and you find it, right? Because Invoker, we didn't even talk about that. Invoker got a lot of good tools too. So,
Yeah.
but my vote would probably be Rinsu.
Worlds is an interesting one, just because it's like a pocket meta. You don't have to go through the trials and tribulations of Swiss. You don't have to be prepared for a bunch of decks. You can kind of prepare for a smaller number of things you think you're going to see. And it's been a while since we've had one of these where the Worlds is separated from at least from US Nats by a little bit. And the last time I think it was when Terrapini won, right, with Yellow Trunchita. I believe that's what he won with.
Yep.
And it was like a very, if I recall correctly, it was a very greedy list, like a very slow.
Yeah, he ran 7-drop freeze in the main.
Yeah, like just stuff that you wouldn't probably get away with having to go through 8 rounds of Swiss and playing a bunch of aggro stuff, but something that should just survive in more of a control-y format. So, Beer, do you have any differences there, or do you think it's Kefla?
I mean, it's probably Kefla, but if it's not Kefla, if we're talking a pocket format, you keep in mind of who you're facing as well. It's not just about what they're playing; it's who you're facing as well. I honestly think it's either Power Wish or Krillin. If it's not Kefla, it's Power Wish or Krillin.
Yeah, Krillin came up a lot. That's interesting. I hope there's a full list.
Krillin can do a lot. Like I've personally been having a good time with it. It's the fact that the moment a leader swing goes through, you just make a triple strike every time, and it doesn't matter. They either give you your hand or they go to 2 life or 3 life, and then the next one that follows through after that, you just alpha strike them because every card in your hand is a 5K at the bare minimum for that leader. Like it's just a degenerate deck that can play the long game and can play the aggro game and can't be milled, right? So if you're in a pocket format where you don't have to worry about all this other random stuff and you're probably expecting to see a lot more control decks, that deck thrives in the longer game states as well because they're going to run out of counterattacks. They can't negate every single leader swing. At some point, one's going to go through, and I'm going to make it a triple strike, and you're going to lose your hand or you're going to give me your life.
Anything else?
And the Power Wish
You
for
look
obvious
like
reasons.
You look like you're ready to talk.
Yeah, no, I mean, true. No, Krillin's great. I like Krillin. I love Krillin. I actually love the Krillin deck a lot. I agree with that. I don't know if it'll be enough to win, just because the deck is full of extra cards, and ironically, sometimes you run out of extra cards. I found sometimes you bottom deck them, and you don't have a way to shuffle, so then your bottom deck is all of them. I'm sure there's ways to play around it. I just didn't really care to figure that part out. I do kind of want to add, if we're talking about a pocket format, and we do know that Kefla is very highly represented and will be, 21 might be a good pick, right? If I was someone going to Worlds and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to play Kefla. I want to just counter whatever they're doing. I believe Miguel played against a 21 player at the event at Nats. But if you take these guys who are, who are going to Worlds now and that experience level that they have, I can really see 21, especially because they're into exist. Even at Nats, right? There's French Nats. I could just see 21 being something kind of worth playing, and I could see it be having a potential to even steal a Worlds win.
To be honest, that's not bad. Sorry.
No, I was just going to agree with Jamal's. Maybe for Worlds, I agree. Definitely, 21 good pick. For whatever reason, the EU historically has never appreciated Android 21. They just, I don't know why they won't play it. They don't view it as a real deck. So I would be pleasantly surprised if someone did really well with that at the French Nats, because it seems like that deck just never got any love, and it's like the opposite of Red Vegeta. It just never got any love over there as a real choice. Go ahead, Biriarr. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna say 21's honestly, that's not even a bad call because Grady, he almost topped NA Nats. Like I faced him round 6. We were both 6-0. I beat him, and then I don't know what happened after that. If he lost another game or just bad tiebreakers, I don't know what happened after that. But the guy was like 5-0, 6-0 at one point in that Nats run, and then we happened to face each other, and I barely beat him. We went to time. It was super close. It could have been anybody's game. Like he 100% could have topped Nats.
That'll be
So I'm
interesting.
saying,
That'll be
oh,
interesting to see. Yeah, I'd be curious. Just you don't really need to, you know, Miguel snuck in at X2 tiebreakers. There was a lot of X2s, right? He got in 16th seed,
Yeah.
makes the run, gets to second place. Like you can falter a little bit in Swiss and still have success in
Yep.
day 2 if you're lucky enough to make the cut. You know, I'd have loved to have seen if Klinger, who got 17th, I know, bubbled out. I feel bad for him, but I would have really liked to see him and what he could have done in Top Cut. I think he would have done some damage for sure. So just any deck that can get there. 21 into red, but in that I don't know about the.
But it was
format
close.
that you're
I'm
in.
telling you, it was close. It was
Yeah.
super close. And I'm playing Red Vegeta and I'm on my A game and we're both undefeated and it was that close. It wasn't a stomp. Like that was tooth and nail. That was not a child's game.
how much red do you think will be at Worlds, right? Like we change our mindset to, like you said, a pocket meta mindset, where it's only 8 players. There can only be up to 8 different decks, right? Up to, realistically, and we know that's probably a lot because 2 of them we know probably guaranteed are going to be Kefla, right? Because we know why would Ivan not take Kefla, right? Minimum. So you can say there's 6 slots left. AJ's not taking Kefla, but like, what would AJ take? I don't even. He's not taking Zamasu, right? If he wants to win, I just don't see. But then again, he maybe has the same mindset, right? Oh, how much red is really gonna? Everyone's like, oh, if you played against the red deck and you can't take Zamasu Mill to Worlds because of red. Who's gonna play red? And what red deck are they gonna play for that statement to apply? Because the red deck that they play needs to be able to beat Kefla. So
Which
I
is
don't
only
know.
Vegeta. Which is
Right.
Vegeta and maybe Krillin.
Right, in theory, is Vegeta, and that's Vegeta's one of Vegeta's worst matchups. Feels like it's Kefla.
Very tough. It's very tough.
So I don't know. Like it just, maybe he can run it back, but then maybe this whole conversation is irrelevant, and AJ just wins with Zamasu Mill because no one's prepped for it.
But also BT30 is coming out too.
True, which changes everything, right? So all these Worlds predictions, and this is just based off what we got right now. And 30 is supposed to be very impactful to the meta. It's supposed to be a very exciting, interesting set. And maybe all of this becomes irrelevant. Will come down to Worlds where Kefla's not even the best deck. Maybe we get another new deck. We will get a new deck, and maybe it is going to be as good as advertised going into Worlds, and enough. It has to be good enough to consider the taking, right, to Worlds. But whatever it is, not cool, but any deck, any color. All right, VT30 is really supposed to shake things up. So we'll see how true that is. But I would say, knowing what we know now, it's definitely probably Kefla. And if you were trying to be slick, maybe 21 because Kefla's going to be there. And if I'm AJ, I would take Zamasu, knowing that who's really going to take red, because I really just don't know. I don't know who won the other Nats and what deck they were playing with, and like what their history is. Right, and what their history is too, right? Right. So knowing their history, you can kind of predict what someone's willing to play, even going into a Nats format, Worlds format, and say, oh well, that's not their style anyway, and they've never played a deck like that, so why would they go take that deck now? Right? No one, even Worlds when I don't know, I just forgot Goku's name, what we called it, but the Goku Worlds, where everyone knew Goku was the best deck, everyone
Crimson?
knew it. Huh? Crimson, thank you. Yeah, so Crimson format, everybody knew it was the best deck, but not everyone played Crimson at Worlds, right? Like, there was no question about it. This is the best deck in the format. I mean, so much so that someone played Biriarr, into that pocket meta, thinking, hey, I have a better matchup. And I think that was the same one where Tarpini was playing, not Tarpini, Big O chose Gamma. Was that the same format or no?
Yeah, if Big O would have charged turn 1, who
Or-
knows?
He wins.
Yeah.
He wasn't
and
gonna
and that was but everyone, and it's funny because everyone at Worlds took decks that they thought believed would beat Crimson, despite it being the best deck. And I think that's the mindset you have to have for Worlds is, okay, what is the best deck? And am I willing to play it? And I do shout out to him, but he did make that mistake where Duvall said, this is the best deck. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to worry about it because the deck is that good. Where he made zero adjustments, right? Didn't change the deck, I don't think, even at all. Maybe a card. Goes into Worlds, and everybody else, every other single player there was prepared for that deck. So that could be the case with Kefla. The thing is, the onus is on the other 6 players, potentially, to figure out what that deck is that can beat Kefla. Because that is technically the thing you have to worry about the most, I think, right? Everything else we kind of know and it's existed, and Kefla's the one that's like, what do you do to beat it? To consistently beat it, right? Not get lucky, not have a close game. Is there anything out there where like we knew Barris beat Crimson because Crimson was so slow that Barris just ramped and it had no interaction, and then look, I got to 16 energy and win the game.
Bojack also beat Crimson back in the day. That was a great time.
Right. So
yeah,
we'll see.
There is potential. You know, if I know anyone's going to do their homework leading into the event, I know it'll be Miguel. He will be prepared for what people,
I think he wins Worlds, dude.
I hope so. I believe in him. He definitely can do it for sure. Great player. I hope he does it. But there are, in testing before Nats, not necessarily with Miguel, but with other guys on the team, like Daimaku was a deck that gave Kefla some issues because it could, if you could survive that beginning, where your Unison's bridge, you could start to build advantage and you ramp and you do all that stuff. Like there are some strategies that in that small eight man meta, like Daimaku, I don't think you can survive Swiss. I don't think you can play against TN and go and, you know what I mean? Have to play against Arinsu and TN and these really low to the ground aggro decks. Even some of the newer ones, right? Like Ebola or Baby can just they can generate enough swings early enough where your Unisons don't bridge, and then you're swimming up creek from there. But in a slower meta where people are playing control-y decks, could you play some type of ramp deck? Could you play I don't SS4 Vegito or Beerus Ramp or one of these older blue decks that ramped a bunch of energy? Bojack is probably just the best ramp deck, right? So
Right.
these decks that could possibly just outpace Kefla, because Kefla's so efficient on curve. It does everything it wants to do in that mid-range game so well. It can play offense and defense so easily. All of its offense is just defense based. It's like it's very unique in that sense. But maybe Beerus Ramp could get there, right? They're not really answering Citroen Vegeta or something to get there. You don't think so, Beer? Maybe not Beerus, but
Not Beerus Ramp. Definitely not Beerus Ramp. That deck is too weak.
maybe Bojack just scales or something. But it's gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what strategies come out. Hopefully BT30, the window is kind of close for Worlds and its release date. And if it ends up getting pushed like Fearsome Rivals did, we could be in a tight predicament there, right? You have people traveling internationally. You can't have release weekend the week before the event if it gets delayed. So hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully we get the new cards and everyone has access and we have to see everything.
I mean, they should just supply the World's players with all the cards. That's realistically what it should be. You should be like, what is the list you want to submit? This is the list you want to submit. Okay, we're gonna build the deck for you. Here's your sleeves. Here's your cards. Play. Then there's no question of anybody doing shady stuff either, and they have all the cards ready for the players, and that's it.
As good of an idea that is, please don't tell Miguel. He'll never buy another card in his life. Dude. That'll be it. Untap only. No, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see if BT30 is like BT29. Maybe not a great impact on the world's meta, but if it's crazy, if it's one of the more impactful sets, then definitely. So, if you guys have any thoughts in the comments section, I'd love to get your take, especially on some of these more controversial topics we discussed. And I don't think nobody traveled, right? Nobody from the team is going to be over there. I don't even know if any, friends or extended universe are going to be there. So I know there will be some Americans, but
I know Robbie's going. I just shot him a message, but I don't know who else is going.
yeah, hopefully those guys do well.
I mean, I could go. I have family in Holland. I could technically go if I could afford to fly.
You better figure that out quickly. Time is of the essence. But hopefully we'll be back with some more Set 29 gameplay, some more live streams with locals next week, and just bringing you guys, as we get more events, we'll get some deck profiles going. It's just been, kind of a off-season season for us. So, but I appreciate Jamaal and Biriarr joining me. Guys, you have any last words?
No, man. Look, shout out to anybody going. And shout out to everyone here who's watched, who stuck around to the end, low key or high key. Yo, we're almost at 500 subscribers. If you guys can help us get over that mark and just get over that hump and then keep it going from there. But like, we're like 45 away or something, 40, 45, somewhere between there. Yo, look out. You know what I mean? And I've said this before. Get your family, your aunt, your cousin, grandmama. Look, whoever got a YouTube account, to be honest with you, at this point, just hit this, subscribe, right? Subscribe for them. Make an account in your cat's name. I don't know, but help us get there. Be much loved, much appreciated. Kind of keeps us motivated, and keep giving out this content for you guys and kind of making it for you guys on a daily basis or at least weekly basis, depending on what it is. So, but definitely much love for all the support that you guys have shown us so far, and shout out to all the other YouTubers who are have shown up lately and kind of maybe they've been motivated by the format, maybe they're motivated by the game, or just seeing what we're doing. I just hope keep doing it. More people in the space, the better. More people get to talk about our game and keep our game alive as long as possible that we all enjoy playing. So,
I mean, I can't say any better than that. Thank you for watching, and keep on having fun. Right, that's the big thing. We got to have fun.
And if you're not in the Discord, hop in the locals. It's a good time. And yeah, we'll see you at the events. See you around. See you in the comments, hopefully. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye-bye.